Fortunately, we've seen the market shift from more of a seller's market back into more of a buyer's market at the moment. And what this has enabled us to do as buyer's agents is secure properties below market value. Now, in today's video, we're going to educate you exactly how you can buy properties below market value in these current market conditions. Now, in planning for this video today, there was nobody that we'd prefer to have on this one except for you, Kristal, because you have got more experience purchasing properties for investors than most people out there. You've probably helped our clients reduce the purchase price off their deals by hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. So really excited to talk through this idea about how to purchase properties below market value. Now, I want to preface today's video with the fact that not always can you purchase properties below market value. It will really depend on the market conditions.
Yep.
You know, generally when it's a seller's market and properties are selling within the first few days, they will sell above market value more often than not. And this was a very common occurrence back in 2021. So it can be really challenging when there's a lot of heat in the market, when the demand to supply ratios are sitting a bit higher, when the average days on market are sitting a bit lower. But when it shifts to more of a buyer's market and that DSR score drops a little bit, when those average days on market start to creep back up a little bit, we're like, oh, here we go. The power is coming back into our hands. So first things first, what do we do when planning to purchase a property below market value?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing is understanding what market value is. So I want to start this by saying a lot of people confuse the suburb median house price or median value of a property with market value. And they're two very different things. So market value can be established in a couple of different ways. Diving into the sales history of a suburb. So looking at everything that's sold over the last 6 or 12 months. Right now, really only the last 3 to 6 months is relevant because 12 months ago, the market was very different. And obviously, like you said, 2021 saw a lot of heat in the market and things jumped quite a lot. So looking into the sales history of the suburb is really, really important. And then looking into comparable sales for the property that you're looking for. So if I want to go into a market and buy a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom property, and I've gone to the inspection, I'm planning on putting an offer on this property, I want to know what market value is for that property type, not what market value is for every property in the suburbs. So that's really important to understand because a lot of people we work with that aren't familiar with various areas go, awesome, the suburb's got a median house price of $580,000, but the property we're presenting them is a $700,000 property. There's a bit of a disconnect there. So it's understanding that that $700,000 property does represent value at that level because we've got 6 or 7 sales that justify in a range of 680 to 800K, and 700,000 would actually be a fantastic purchase price for that property. So it's really understanding how this property compares with others that have recently sold, and then is that market value? Is the agent overpricing it or underpricing it? And that can give you an understanding of then how to negotiate the property as well.
Now, one thing that I'm noticing a lot recently when I look on realestate.com, especially up here in Brisbane, is you won't see a price on the realestate.com listing. Is there some questions that you can ask the agent, or how do you get a bit of a better understanding as to where they see the expectations for this property? Because I would assume the seller or the selling agent has set the seller's expectations.
Yeah, of course. So there's a few ways around it. They're not always going to give you an exact price. They don't want to shoot themselves in their foot by saying, yep, we'll sell it to you for 500K. Someone out there was willing to pay 700. So it's about towing the line around what you can ask and what they can give you in terms of information. But we always ask probing questions like, we start with, where do you see the property going? And if they will not answer that question, then we jump into, okay, that's fine, but what comparable sales have you given to the seller to set their expectations? Do you have a CMA that you can send us that we can use to understand if this property is, 1, within our budget, and then if it is within our budget, 2, if the property represents value based on the expectations that the agent has set of the sellers. If they don't have those comparable sales or a CMA that they're willing to give you, that's when we jump into the sales history and do a little bit of our own digging. So establishing what other properties similar to that have been selling for, to say, okay, well, this property probably should be selling within the region of this $50,000 range.
Yeah.
Whether that happens or not is a different story, but at least it gives us an understanding of what we could possibly do to start with an offer, or where the property may go based on the market expectation.
I think it's really important to note that it will really, well, you just have to understand who's working for who in this situation. So if you're going and leaning on the selling agent for all of the advice, where's the property going to sell? What are the expectations? Where's your CMA? What other comparable sales are you using for this one? Their job is to get the seller the best possible result. Their job is to get you to pay the highest possible price. So if you're just blind, if you've got that blind faith, trusting the real estate agent, you're going to get taken for a ride. You will not purchase that property below market value, even if he makes you feel as though, or she makes you feel as though you have done. So regardless of what the agent says, regardless of what information they give you, you need to understand market value yourself to go in for this. But let's say that we find the perfect property, we've done our research, we feel as though there is an opportunity to look at securing this property. How do we go about those negotiations to try and secure the property below market value?
Yeah, of course. So we really use a 3-stage negotiation. Obviously, when it's a buyer's market, there's some circumstances where, like Simon touched on earlier, properties are selling within 2 or 3 days of hitting the market with 20 offers. So in those instances, we've got to play to our advantages and just try and get as much information as possible to best position our clients or ourselves with an offer that will be accepted. But at the moment, the current market environment is allowing this 3-stage negotiation. So the first step, or stage 1, is starting with a low offer with not so great terms. So when we say low offer, we're not saying it's listed for offers over 650, you come in 100 grand below that, because starting too low often offends the agent, offends the seller, and doesn't end up working to your advantage. So you want to start low enough that it gives you room to move, but high enough that it entices the seller or the seller's agent to give you enough feedback on where you should go from there. So stage 1, low offer, not so great terms. When I'm saying terms, I'm referring to longer finance clause, longer building and pest condition, longer settlement, or just using things that you can then take back at a later stage. Stage 2 is then a slightly better price and probably leaving the terms the same. So better price, but not so great terms still. And again, you're taking into consideration the agent's feedback. So you might start offers over 650, start at 610K. They may say the sellers want 680. So it's about finding that middle ground of, okay, where are we going to go that's going to bring the sellers down from their perch, and where can we go that's still going to get us a good result? Stage 3 is then sharpening up to your best and final offer. So this is that walkaway price, best conditions that you can offer. So is there a way that you can reduce the number of days for building and pest conditions? Is there a way that you can sharpen up your finance clause, speak to your broker and see the shortest amount of days that you can offer there? And then find out from the agent what the seller wants in terms of settlement. Do they need a rent back clause because they haven't actually found another property? Or are they building elsewhere and want a longer settlement? So finding out the settlement that's actually right for the seller is the best way to give them the best terms. So that maximum price and best possible terms is stage 3. And we call this our walkaway price. So generally speaking, at stage 3, we create a bit of time pressure with the agent. We'll give them a bit of a 24-hour deadline to have the offer accepted, or we go with another property, trying to get them to really take that offer. And along the way, we've taken into consideration their feedback. Again, we're not trying to offend them here, but we're trying to look at this property as a way that we can pick up 20K on the way in if that's possible. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we do this 3-stage negotiation and it gets to the end of it and the sellers are still right up here and we're sitting here and it just doesn't come together. Sometimes we don't even need the 3rd step. At stage 2, we've put the pressure on and they end up accepting the offer. So it's just really about feeling the sellers, the agent out, and where you are willing to go. You don't want to get emotionally caught up in the hype and go, fine, I'll give you that extra 30K. Really taking a logical approach when you're coming up with that best and final offer.
So there is definitely opportunities, but what we love to talk about as well, and something that you've used along with the team to try and negotiate an even further discount, or If we can't secure it below market value, then after you've got a successful offer, you can sometimes negotiate on the building and pest. Now, we've done previous videos on this where we go into a lot more detail as to how you can negotiate a discount from a building and pest. But do you want to go through what you generally do in this situation quite quickly?
Yeah, of course. So found a property, it's under contract, and then it's subject to building and pest. Get the building and pest report back. Typically speaking, we will use that to pull back on price. So 5 or 6 things might pop up in the report. Send a list to the sellers and say, these are the issues. We would either like you to fix them, or we'd like $5,000 off the price. It's obviously all relative. Some properties there's a chance to negotiate 20 grand off because it's quite severe. Other properties there's no chance to negotiate, so we ask for 1,000 or 2,000 just to see what we can wind out of them. But yeah, we'll potentially renegotiate after you've already got a property under contract and bring the price back a little bit more. Like Simon said, this is often what we use if we've had to jump up a little bit above where we thought we wanted to go to secure the property, then we bring it back by that 5K to where we ideally wanted to buy the property in the first place. So that's where we use it mostly to our advantage. We secure the property and then renegotiate. But sometimes it's very, very justified, and then you can knock a bit more off the price. This is something you definitely need to speak to your broker and solicitor about though, because there are ways that too big of a price reduction can affect settlement and you need to notify your bank and things like that. So definitely an option to look into once you've got that report, and use that condition to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And always leaning on your advisors throughout this stage of the negotiations as well. But I wanted to finish this video off with just saying that, you know, these things are not the be all and end all. As you said, you cannot get too emotional about it. If we can use these situations to our advantage, great, but not always does it end up being the case, depending on market conditions, depending on your personal strategy, depending on the suburb you're buying in, depending on the agent that you're dealing with, depending on the property that you're buying. There's so many variables that come into play, and it's not always going to work. So you do need to, you know, understand your strategy as a number one thing. Yep. You need to identify the right market to be investing in, the right pocket of the market to be investing in, the right suburb within that pocket, the right street within that suburb, the right block on that street as well. All of these things are far more important than buying below market value or negotiating on a building and pest. All of these things will make you far more money long term than buying below market value. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Chris. It's great to hear that we are in a bit more of a buyer's market at the moment, and we can use these styles of negotiations to secure sweeter deals. Now, what we actually do, guys, is we run a buyer's agency where we help a small number of people purchase investment properties up here in the Brisbane market. Now, if you are thinking about wanting to take advantage of the current market conditions, then we would be more than happy to offer you a free one-on-one strategy session. You can access those free strategy sessions via our website, www.pumpedonproperty.com, where you can follow the links to lock in that strategy session. Now, during that, we'll talk about exactly where you're at right now, where you're looking to be in the future. We'll also talk about the current market conditions and the way that you can use those to your advantage. And then we can just point you in the right direction so you can go and smash it yourself, or you can become one of the small number of people that we work with each month, and we can hold your hand through that process. We can teach you much deeper levels of these different negotiation strategies and help you purchase a property below market value. But either way, we just want the absolute best for you. So I hope you've enjoyed some content in this video. Please like, subscribe, share this video with somebody that needs to hear it.
Whew,
That's a wrap.
that's a wrap.
Getting cool,
Bro.
Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice.
Oh.